The Diocese of Tyler hopes a service held tonight inspires East Texans in the legal profession. It's called Red Mass.
Yeah, they held that tonight. This comes as other violent acts have impacted other services just like it across the country. KLTV7's Michael Richardson was there, and he reports today's Red Mass coincides with the beginning of the Supreme Court's term.
At the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception in Tyler, a tradition dating back to the 13th century. Tonight, a Red Mass attended by dozens of East Texans aimed at providing guidance to lawmakers, justices, and others in the legal profession as the Supreme Court reconvenes in Washington.
Our job as justices is to apply the law as written, not to write the law. But when we're doing that, we're seeking God's wisdom and trying to understand it as well as we can and apply it as well as we can.
The law is so important in terms of the structure of the community, and that it doesn't execute itself. It needs somebody to read it, to interpret it, to apply it.
Bishop Gregory Kelly of the Diocese of Tyler emphasized the importance of mercy when determining justice.
There's always room for interpretation. There's always room for application. How can that they may just apply the law in a way which is just and merciful.
The Red Mass comes as the Supreme Court is set to consider cases surrounding voting rights, tariffs, and other topics in the coming months. Michael Richardson, KLTV7 News.
Bishop Kelly adds that the color red is a traditional color for Mass and that red vestments are used for other occasions, including confirmation.